And welcome back. Today we're going to be hanging out looking at lighthouses, and I'm definitely not going to be falling down in embarrassing waves and editing it out. Yeah. I ain't so great at platformers. Alright, so let's kick it off by getting part A to this cube. Yeah. So yeah, we can just run back down there and check out another little area. It is not a huge portion of the map, though, as you might think at first. Most of the map of the game is actually open to you pretty much immediately. So we don't really need to go visit those right away. We can keep exploring for a bit, find some more cubes, and just have a jolly old time. So, fun thing got mentioned in the thread that I really thought was neat. Didn't quite catch this detail, and I really like it. When you're looking in the village, all the houses that are not on the immediate first view plane that all the villagers interact with, all the houses that don't have doors on those sides are broken down and not maintained and have cobwebs and are dirty and all that. So that's pretty cool. Also, even the places that do have access, such as Gomez's house, only the side he can see is really nicely populated and has the drum kit and all that, but then if you look at the other walls, they're kinda crappy. Sorry, I have to respect the chest. Just way into opening chests. So about that turning around maps things. You might notice a different location of that little red bar on both sides. That means a thing! We'll go into that later. But yeah, and the other thing that was pointed out, what's kind of cool about it is, the geezer's house is not like that. It is well maintained on every side. The other guy with the FEZ. So that's pretty cool. I am not a fan of this section. Like, I kind of like what they were going for. I get the idea, but it does end up just feeling like you're just kind of hanging out and waiting for the most part. And I don't know, I don't really like sections of games that just make me sit and wait. I think it is poor game design. But hey, it's a small flaw in this otherwise magnificent gem. Another good gameplay tip while I jump around like an idiot. Doors, once you go through them, Gomez was raised in a barn, and therefore leaves doors open like a little asshole, letting the draft in everywhere. But it's nice for telling where you've been, where you haven't gone through yet. So it's a good thing to be wary of. All Dot's trying to tell us is how levers work. Or pivots, rather. Oh gosh, thanks. Oh, super helpful as usual. Oh, pivots, ugh. But yeah, basically what you want to do is just put the opening in a way that, well, it's usable to you. Because you can do that, press forward to flip around like that and climb on through. I don't think I show it here, but that ladder is actually not lined up properly, and in that first section, if you rotate while you are on the ladder, the game kind of doesn't know what to do because the ladder isn't being shown anymore, so you just kind of fall. And it's obnoxious, and I did it a bunch. So, don't do that when you're playing. And again, pretty simple stuff here, just make it so that when you look at it from this side, boom, one ladder. Climb City. Oh. Yeah, can't jump straight up to that. Gotta go to the ladder. Now, a nice thing, you see these little kind of door with two cubes interlinked, or squares rather. These are kind of shortcuts you unlock throughout the game. The only downside, and I'm fairly certain about this, I might be dumb and wrong, it doesn't really give you any kind of indicator on map of where parts are located, like where one door is and where it'll take you to the other one. And I mean, this is fine if you have a memory longer than like 15 minutes, but I don't, so I have a hard time remembering to use those. I will do my best to kind of map those out, you know, Metroid style, where you had to draw maps and whatnot, and to make it a little less agonizing for you guys. I'm already probably going to be cutting out a ton of backtracking as it is, because this game does get a little backtracky. It does do a thing at one point that helps a lot with that issue, but just for the sake of fluid motion and moving forward. Okay, so you see the little tiny rotating platforms, which we will be jumping to as soon as I get this cube bit. Oh gosh, I didn't want to run off and die and look like an idiot, so instead I just did a little happy dance and also looked like an idiot. Yeah, so those little tiny rotating platforms, kind of the bane of my existence. We saw them a second ago, but they just... oh gosh. Tip number one for these, do not try and fight the rotation. FEZ is not a race. As much as I try and, you know, pro play FEZ all the time. Don't just try and hustle all over the place, or you're just going to end up spinning the camera back and forth a whole bunch, making yourself sick, and then getting confused and falling down. Not that I did that like a billion times. So yeah, just rotate that around. Jump on over. And of course the thing here is definitely the right way to turn it. Good move. Kind of have to make this one continuous bridge. Can't hop up to it right away, so you gotta plop back over. Using a little dinky platform in the middle. And again, do not fight the rotation. You will be much worse off for doing it. I wish I would have taken my own advice earlier, because I just can't help myself. Oh gosh. Yeah. So you're gonna notice that little owl guy here. He may have been in a painting we saw earlier in someone's house. Good to take note of those guys. They are a thing we will have to take care of later. So, just take note of that owl. Now this, it isn't actually, as you might notice, there's a little bit of lag. It is, we are not actually rotating that. It is just rotating on its own accord. Alright, and I do believe this is the first time this happens. We get a cube in a chest, which is, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice that they don't just always put the cubes on the platforms. Sometimes you'll find them in random spots, and... double cube! Nice! Yeah, I like that they keep the chests kinda exciting by putting every type of object in them. And a quick spot check down to make sure I'm not missing anything. And let's hustle back inside. Oh no, our owl buddy's gone. Yeah, owl buddy only comes out at night, so that's another thing that makes it nice to remember where those owls are going to be. Because later on, it's really terrible if you're looking for them and you're like, okay, I think this is the right tree, and you have to wait a couple minutes for it to turn to night, and then you're like, oh shit, that's the wrong tree, I'm dumb. And yeah. So that's about everything we need to take care of here for now. Let's head back. And again, there we have another connected door, but we have not discovered the other side yet, so we can't use it. Bummer. We'll figure out where it goes here in the near future. And here is a part that I definitely wasn't terrible at and was super embarrassed by. So, just imagine I recorded a really perfect playthrough where I did not fall ever at all. This, however, will be a nice demonstration of the fact that FEZ is... Oh god, I kept trying to fight it. FEZ is fairly forgiving as far as the platformer death part. Oh, gosh. Yeah, it just puts you back on whatever the last solid piece of ground you touched is, which is pretty nice. These are pretty cool. Knew exactly what you'd imagine. Boop. And here is a part that's a little tricky, and I'm sort of terrible at it. And you might have noticed I fell off that one tiny platform earlier. Now, it turns out you can be hanging onto just the outside edge of it, and that's cool. And you can be standing on it, and obviously that is also acceptable. But if you were kind of like halfway in an animation while it turns, the game is not 100% sure on how to handle it. Oh, gosh. Always make sure it is the shortest jump you can make, or else you might just plop down. These are a little goofy. I do not mind them as much as the rotating platforms, because all you have to do is just hop when they turn. Big ones are a little worse, just because you got more ground to cover. Give you more area to land, but also they will just huck you to the ground. And these, I mean, they're pretty straightforward what they do, just platforms that unfortunately rotate around an axis. Now this next part, every time I try it, no matter how many times I practiced it, I always did it the wrong way first. And yeah, just shorted myself on that jump. But yeah, if you kind of hustle it, it's not as bad. You just have to make one tricky jump kind of regardless of, you know, how you start off. This part's really easy. You just gotta use your brain parts and realize, oh, I can just, you know, hustle along, and they even were nice enough to make it basically the same as your running speed, so no issue there. Let's hop up on here and... Yep, just like Super Mario RPG, except you're pushing it forward into the screen instead of just hopping on it. Nice thing you might have just caught there. Those bolts. Oh, another map. Well, let's take a look at that real quick. And nothing on the front. That's pretty useless. Or is it? Again, another case of... They don't really tell you you can turn the map, and it's kind of frustrating at first. Oh gosh. But yeah, those bolts, as well as a lot of platforms in the game. I'm a really big fan of the fact that they do this. The platforms will automatically fall back down to whatever level you're at, or just to be in line with you. And that is a really good idea. They don't just reset to the bottom. There are a couple times that's a little frustrating. One of which I believe is coming up either in this next section or maybe one or two up from here, but there's a part where it's a little obnoxious. But it's not a big deal. And again, just looking up, as you might have noticed from some of those maps we picked up earlier, they kind of like hiding stuff up and away and just out of view so that you don't notice it until you know you're looking for it, or you come across it very early and you don't have a map yet, so it's just kind of like, what? That is a nice one. This is just kind of a gimme. Again, not a big fan of the whole just hanging out waiting, but you know, it builds a little bit of tension, I guess. You're pretty excited for that cube! and a particularly wonderful placement of this mini gate. You know, I have never been able to figure out the black holes as far as when they decide to spawn, kind of, because you'll notice they're here, and okay, first of all, I have to show what these do, and the animations in FEZ are just great. Oh gosh. Okay, no, I'm done. Okay, wait, one more. Alright, I'm done. I gotta leave the room before... Ugh. Yeah. I love that animation. But, yeah, as you'll see, you know, the black holes were there just a second ago, and now I'm in the same place. And they're not there anymore. And I am not really sure if there is... I mean, obviously there's some kind of system to tell when there is and is not. And yeah, map screen, not terribly important this early in the game, just because, for the most part, it's kind of just go do whatever, just go to new places and do things. Later on it ends up becoming way important, particularly when you're trying to go back and get gold platings on everything. You might notice, even though, you know, it seems like we have pretty much all of the stuff in a lot of these maps that we've been to, you know, we're missing a lot of the gold platings, and we will be figuring out why, probably in the next update. But yeah, that black hole death animation just kind of turned into a FEZ taco. I love it. It's the best death animation. Even when he falls, it's just kind of like, oh man, Gomez, no. All right, fairly interesting mechanic here. Somewhat straightforward. Kind of odd thing though is sometimes you think you'll have it set up the right way, but you actually do have to take kind of all three dimensions of travel into account, because it only likes going, you know, one direction. It keeps trying to go what overall is forward. And we're gonna have to come back here later because I don't have a key for that spot. I'm embarrassed. Should have gotten that key earlier, but that's alright. Like I said, there inherently in FEZ there is a bit of backtracking, but there's usually so much to do along the way. And you can just do a whole bunch of backtracking all in one shot, because it's not like a lot of games where, you know, you'll be backtracking, you know, 100 screens for one thing that is used for one specific instance, Metroid Prime. But yeah, it's pretty enjoyable time. So when I had mentioned earlier that occasionally the platforms defaulting to resetting to your current height is a little obnoxious, this is one of the, I believe it's this one, is the time I was kind of thinking of in particular. A good idea here that I completely don't do is to touch the ground there, because like I said, you respawn from solid ground if you die. Also, don't just walk off this platform even though it lines up for a second. You should probably jump. Because I didn't touch that middle platform, I had to restart all the way at the bottom, and the platform doesn't just appear down, you actually have to rotate everything inverse to the way you set it up and wait for it to come back down, and oh, it's terrible. So don't just walk off platforms. FEZ Pro play tips. Alright, here's one of the earlier puzzles we'll run across that is a little, not really confusing so much as a little bit disorienting. But you know, in a way that it's intended to be. And I think I might have lost track here for a second. But yeah, you just gotta flip them all around so that they're all in line so you can climb them up as one big old ladder. You might notice a little bit of movement oddities. I kind of thought I was gonna maybe run into this and stop, but that is not the case. There's 3 pillars in a row, and you know, some of them are in front of you, some of them are behind you, and kind of the whole flattening the world gets a little awkward in that location, so I probably should have been a little smarter about that, but yeah, not a big deal. Oh gosh. Make sure we snag these cube bits here real quick. Let's head on to our next area. And you might notice you can hear stuff a jingle-jangling. Particularly Dot. And that little pulse that the cube bits send out, which is... thank goodness for it later on. Some of the cube bits are, I wouldn't say necessarily tricky to find, especially because the map screen tells you exactly what you need to find in each location, which is just the best game feature ever. Oh my gosh, why doesn't every game do that? Like, not tell me where it is specifically, but just be like, it's over here. We need to go over here-ish. And another cube. And that puts us at 8, and we'll keep on moving forward. Alright, so we'll set up for next time, and I will see you in part 3. Actually, just one more thing. Quick thing to note. If you reload on one of the portal areas, it's not going to reload you out of the portal, so not a big deal, but if you're speed running or something of the sort, just be aware that if you do that, they're going to make you climb up again. Not a big deal, but just a thing I thought you might want to know. And on that note, peace!